I don't think that I've ever been more low on the Pelicans than I am right now. Welcome in or welcome back. We'll get to it in a second, but I think the West has just gotten so much better this year. The cutoff last year to make the play-in was 39 games, and even if Zion stays healthy all year this year, I don't think that they have made enough moves to be that much better than they were. What additions, you may ask? Well, let's talk about it. In the draft, pretty solid in my opinion, at least in a vacuum. At number 7, they picked up Jeremiah Fears out of Oklahoma. At number 13, they picked up Derek Queen. And at number 40, they picked up Micah Peavy. And again, in a vacuum, I like their draft a lot. Jeremiah Fears certainly had some ups and downs at Oklahoma, but I think he's going to turn out to be a pretty solid pro. I don't see him being an all-star or anything, or the next Trae Young like a lot of people were calling him, but I think he's going to be a really solid role player. And I know that that's not what the fans want to hear after drafting him 7th, but unless something huge, something drastic changes in the way that he plays basketball, I just don't see it for him. Again, like I said, early in the season last year, he was called the next Trae Young, and now that the season is over, I think that that may be the most disrespectful shit I have ever heard. And don't get me wrong, 17, 4-4 with a steal and a half a game is really respectable. But if we're talking college basketball players, and if we're specifically talking about Oklahoma point guards, Trae Young averaged 27 and 9 a night. Ultimately, a serviceable role player is probably his ceiling. If he can average like 12 points a game and stop shooting abysmally from 3, I think you should call this a win. And I also really like Derek Queen as a player. I don't, however, like the move that they made to get him. An unprotected 2026 first round pick to get, respectfully as possible, another role player is asinine. I mean, my God, do they have any idea how bad they're going to be next year? Not to mention the fact that there are some fit issues with Zion. They play similarly, they play similar positions, and they do it in different ways. Obviously, Zion is an above the rim athlete and Derek is a below the rim athlete, but they essentially do the same things. Now, of course, when Zion is hurt for at least 40 games this year, it's not going to matter too much, but when they are on the floor together, I think there's going to be a lot of overlap. And more importantly, for a lottery pick that you drafted and gave up another first rounder to get him, I think that with Zion on the floor, it's really going to stunt Derek Queen's growth. I usually save the negativity for the end when we talk about the departures, but let's try to right this ship. Let's talk about their re-signings and Herb Jones. We love Herb Jones here, and I think that locking up one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league is always a good idea. I mean, 2 years ago, he was in Defensive Player of the Year talks, and even though he was injured most of last year, I would have to imagine he's going to be back in that form this year. I think that the wing tandem of him and Trey Murphy III is really underrated. And again, this is a big if. If they can stay healthy, I think that the both of them combined with these other pieces here could make this team, at bare minimum, really fun to watch. Now, the Pelicans were pretty busy in their additions department. They went out and got Saddiq Bey, Kevon Looney, and Jordan Poole. And I think when it comes to Saddiq Bey, adding wing depth is never a bad idea. I think that I'm higher on Saddiq Bey than most, but how could you not love a guy who averaged 14 and 6 with 36% from 3 last year? I think that he'll be a really fun piece off of the bench, but I do think that a lot of those wing minutes will get eaten up by Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. Now, seeing Kevon Looney in a Pelicans jersey is going to take some getting used to. It's also admittedly confusing why he's even here. And don't get me wrong, I understand what he can bring to the team defensively, being a very good rebounding presence, but again, with him on this team, with Zion and with Derek Queen, there is so much overlap in the skills. And at bare minimum, it's going to be pretty crowded. I'd have to imagine that Kevon Looney starts over the rookie, which again is perplexing because you used a lottery pick to draft him and gave up a future first rounder. None of them can space the floor either, really. So of course I have some spacing and fit issues, but honest to God, I don't think that I would be very surprised that if at the end of the year we're talking about Kevon Looney averaging a double-double again. And I also didn't expect Jordan Poole in a Pelicans jersey. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that Jordan Poole isn't fun to watch. I just think that he is best in a winning system. And the Pelicans are not that. Now, I want to give credit where credit's due here. He grew a lot as a ball handler and a facilitator in DC, and I would love to see that continue here in New Orleans, especially with a pick and roll with Zion. I just don't know if it's going to matter in the long term. And that was as positive as I could be about the additions. Let's be a little more negative and talk about the departures of the team. And maybe depending how you felt about them, they're not so negative in the departures. We are not going to see Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, or CJ McCollum in a Pelicans jersey anymore. And I think that it may just be difficult for anyone to say that they will miss anybody on this team just because they were so bad last year. I think that Kelly Olynyk had a really respectable year last year. I think he's going to do pretty well in San Antonio, but he didn't match the timeline at all. And more importantly, for the future of this team, I think that Derek Queen, in theory at least, could eat up his minutes. I'm going to be upfront and honest here. I sort of forgot that Bruce Brown was even in New Orleans, and I like Bruce a lot too as a player. That's how bad the Pelicans were last year. He just went into a vortex that I forgot about. Players like Bruce give you the most when you have talent to surround them, when you are in a winning system. And again, the Pelicans are not that. He's an elite role player, and I think that the Nuggets are going to get that version of him again this year. I think that if he was still on the Pelicans, his impact wouldn't be felt at all, and that says more about the team than it does him. And with CJ now in DC, I think he's just going to be the elder statesman there, because when he was brought into New Orleans, the Pelicans tried to give Zion a real running mate, and I think to some varying levels of success, they sort of did that, at least on an intermittent basis. But now, because he was there for a couple of years and the Pelicans didn't go anywhere, it was just time to move on. Now, of course, I do think that the Pelicans could, in theory at least, miss CJ's cool hand and floor generalship, but I do think that Jordan Poole could supplement a lot of the on-ball creation. But again, the Pelicans are going to be pretty bad this year, so what is it going to matter? I have been higher on the Pelicans more than most in the last couple of years, and I just can't get fooled again. The Pelicans are only going to go as far as Zion allows them to, and Zion's only going to play 45 games this year. Could he have a season like the 2023-2024 season where he played 70 games? Sure, I guess, but I'll believe it when I see it. And that's not even mentioning the off-the-court issues that he has right now. And if any of that ever comes to light as true, he should never play basketball again. And honestly, I think that it may be in the Pelicans' best interest to just wash our hands of the whole thing and start over. Pretty negative episode out of your boy today, but what do you think the Pelicans are going to do this year? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're down there, check my description. I've got a link tree with all of my socials: Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok. I am everywhere. And I also have a Discord community that I would love for you to be a part of. That's going to do it for me today. Be on the lookout for your team in this series. Be kind. Tell somebody that you love them. And I'll see you in the next one.
Barely scraping by. Trying to stop puffing. I'm trying to be one of the greats.